ज्ञानञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपासिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। श्रीकृष्णचैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानन्द श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासदि गौर भक्तवृंद। हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे. So today we shall be discussing Lord Chaitanya's visit to the holy Tirth of Gaya. So the atheism in Navdeep was actually all-time high. People in general had absolutely no interest in the topics of Krishna. The word bhakti or devotional service was practically unheard. And not only that, but people, if they saw some devotees, they would ridicule them. They would offer different kinds of criticisms to devotees. So devotees were being tormented by the criticism and seeing the precarious condition of the world, that people were devoid of devotional service. On one hand, the devotees were very much pained by that. On the other hand, when they saw Lord Vishwambhar exhibiting the mood of scholar, devoid of any signs of devotional service or exhibiting the mood of devotee, they were actually very much unhappy. When Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu saw this, he understood that this was actually the appropriate time for him to reveal his identity and mitigate the sorrow of his devotees. And also, it was time for him to start establishing the Yuga Dharma for which he had incarnated in this world. So Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu thought this was the appropriate time for him to start his Sankirtan movement. But before that, he wanted to visit Gaya. He decided to actually visit Gaya. This is how the Supreme Lord inconceivably performs his pastime. So Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he decided to visit Gaya, and he took permission from his mother Sachi Devi, and along with few of his students, he started for traveling to Gaya. And Lord Chaitanya was, his talks were so enlivening with his students. Sometimes they would be joking, sometimes he would teach so many different, subject matters from the scriptures in a very scholarly way. The students were so happy. While they were traveling, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu traveled to so many different towns and villages on the way to Gaya, which actually became later on the holy Tirthas because of the Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's footprints there. While they were traveling to Gaya, one time the Lord enacted the pastime of becoming sick. Students were very worried. And Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, though administered so many different kinds of medication, but he would not recover from the sickness, because this was the inconceivable will of the Lord. He would not be treated by any medication. Finally, the Lord told the students, if I receive the foot wash, the water that has washed the feet of a pure Brahmana, that will relieve me from all the distress and suffering. And when he was given the foot wash of a Brahmana, pure Brahmana, Vaishnava, Lord actually became cured. So in this way, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu wanted to glorify the purity of a Brahmana or a Vaishnava, because the Lord is always very much attracted to the love of his devotees. Especially uh, whatever actions of the Lord can glorify the devotees, Lord does not hesitate to act in that. In fact, Lord Krishna told Arjun in Bhagavad Gita, Nimitta matram bhava sabyasachi. My dear Arjun, I have already killed all these warriors on the battlefield of Kurukshetra. You simply take the credit. You become my instrument and take the credit. The Lord is very eager to glorify his devotees. One time, actually, Lord Chaitanya, when he was, enacting the pastime of a great scholar, so he was studying in the, school of Gangadas Pandit, and there was one of the friend of Lord Chaitanya. I believe his name was Raghunath Upadhyay. So this Raghunath was classmate of Lord Chaitanya. So one time, Raghunath and Lord Chaitanya, Vishwambar, they were both in a boat, crossing the Ganga to go somewhere. And Raghunath Upadhyay had written a book on Sanskrit grammar. So he heard that even Vishwambar had written a book on the same subject matter. So he wanted to see the book of Lord Chaitanya. And Vishwambar gave his manuscripts to the Raghunath Upadhyay. And Raghunath Upadhyay, when he saw this, he started crying. When he read the manuscripts of Lord Chaitanya's book, he started crying. Lord Chaitanya said, what happened? He said, I have also written the book on the same subject matter. But your book is so excellent. I don't think anyone will care to read my book. When Lord Chaitanya heard this, he told Raghunath, you don't have to worry about this. Immediately that very moment, Lord Chaitanya, he had written that book on Sanskrit grammar, he threw the manuscripts in Ganga. In this way, the Lord actually exhibited not only renunciation, but also he exhibited the mood that whatever helps to glorify his devotees, the Lord is always very eager to take that course of action. So, the Lord actually traveled with the students, became cured. After he became cured from the sickness, he actually started traveling to Gaya. So they reached to the Punpuna river. At the Punpuna river, Lord Chaitanya, he offered oblations to his ancestors, his father and all the ancestors, his family. And then he entered into the Tirth of Gaya. Punpana river, that thing, outskirts of Gaya. So then he entered into the Gaya Tirth. Lord Chaitanya, in Gaya Tirth, he went to Chakra Tirth, a place called Chakra Tirth, which is nothing but also known as Pada Padma Tirtha. There's a beautiful temple of Lord Vishnu, where the lotus feet, the footprints of Lord Vishnu's feet are marked. In the temple, the footprints of Lord Vishnu are actually worshipped. So as soon as Lord Chaitanya entered in the temple, he saw so many Brahmanas chanting so many hymns from the Vedas, glorifying these two lotus feet of Lord Vishnu. There are so many different kinds of offerings, like flowers, perfumes, sandalwood paste, jewelry. In piles, they were lying there in the temple, being offered to the lotus feet of the Lord. And the Brahmanas were actually reciting these verses. All of you are so fortunate that you have come to see these lotus feet. These very lotus feet are actually the source of Ganges. These very lotus feet were worshipped by Bali Maharaj, who received the greatest benediction by washing these feet. These very feet, Lakshmi Devi holds in great reverence to her, heart. In this way, they were actually reciting so many beautiful prayers from the Vedas. They were actually inviting all the pilgrims that all of you are so fortunate that you are having the opportunity to see the footprints of that very lotus feet. So Lord Chaitanya, he performed a Shraddha ceremony in that place as well for his ancestors, for his father especially. And in that very temple, he met uh, the most illustrious disciple of Srila Madhendra Puri, named Ishwara Puri. Lord Chaitanya, when he heard these glories of the lotus feet, he actually started dancing in great ecstasy. Lord Chaitanya was so jubilant. The tears were falling from his eyes. And he started dancing in great joy. And when Ishwara Puri saw Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, shedding tears and dancing in so much ecstasy, he actually approached Lord Chaitanya and they both embraced each other. Recognizing each other, Lord Chaitanya recognized Ishwara Puri as his eternal servant, and Ishwara Puri could recognize Lord Chaitanya as his eternal master. So they embraced each other. Lord Chaitanya actually told Ishwara Puri that today my visit to holy place of Gaya has been successful, and offering the Shraddha to all my ancestors has become truly meaningful. When a person performs Shraddha ceremony, he can actually deliver to only certain ancestors in his family, but simply by looking at exalted Vaishnava like you, one delivers innumerable ancestors of his family. And Ishwara Puri actually started glorifying Lord Chaitanya. He said, listen, Pandit, from the day I met you in Navadvip, you are the only object of my meditation. I've been constantly thinking of you. The thoughts of Krishna has been replaced by thoughts of you. Whatever love one feels for Krishna, I feel the same love for you. So understand, you are actually none other than the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna. And when Lord Chaitanya heard these words from Ishwar Puri, he became very happy and satisfied. And they again embraced each other and soaked each other's body with the tears from each other's eyes. Then Lord Chaitanya visited to different holy places in Gaya. Hare Krishna. Could you put yourself on mute?
Oh, sorry, Prabhuji.
Thank you, Mataji. So, Lord Chaitanya visited to Pretagaya. And in Pretagaya, he actually offered the, again, Shraddha ceremony. And the priests who were actually helping Lord Chaitanya to perform the Shraddha ceremony, they were very eager. They were chanting these mantras very nicely, and toward the end, they were anticipating that Lord Chaitanya would give them some dakshina or some Lakshmi, money. But Lord Chaitanya simply satisfied them by his sweet smile. Anyone who saw Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the bonds of their karma were destroyed immediately. Then Lord Chaitanya went to Sri Ram Gaya, the holy tirth of Sri Ram Gaya, and there he actually offered Shraddha to Lord Ramachandra. And he went to Yudhishthir Gaya and offered Shraddha ceremony to Yudhishthir Maharaj. Then Lord Chaitanya visited Bhima Gaya, Shiv Gaya, and Brahma Gaya, and so many different holy places in Gaya Tirth. And finally, Lord Chaitanya came to Shodasa Gaya, with the holy teeth in Gaya called Chodasha Gaya. There, Lord Chaitanya offered sacrifice with 16 different kinds of offerings, oblations. And the priest there, they were actually very eager. After the ceremony was over, the priest surrounded Lord Chaitanya with great eagerness to accept, fees or dakshina from him. And simply by looking at Lord Chaitanya, they were all, liberated from the material existence and became fit to go back home, back to Godhead. Lord Chaitanya, toward the end, he actually went to Brahmakund, took bath in Brahmakund, and then at Gaya Shira, there's a place called Gaya Shira, he offered oblations. He offered the sandalwood paste and flower garlands at the lotus feet of the Lord. So after performing all these oblations, Lord Chaitanya returned to his room because he had a place in Gaya where he was staying. So Lord Chaitanya visited to his room and took some rest. And after taking sufficient rest, he got up and after refreshing himself, he started cooking. And Lord Chaitanya cooked a lot of different varieties of foodstuffs. And when he finished cooking the last item, that very moment, Ishwarapuri entered into uh, the residence of Lord Chaitanya. And as soon as he entered, he saw, oh, I'm at the appropriate moment. And Lord Chaitanya was very happy receiving Ishwarapuri. He actually received him well, washing his feet and making him comfortable, giving him nice feet, nice place to sit. And then Lord Chaitanya said, please accept the prasad at my place. So Ishwarapuri said, but I think you have cooked only for sufficient for one person. And Lord Chaitanya said, no, but I'll be very happy if you can accept the meal. It's not really very difficult. I will again cook for myself. And Ishwarapuri said, why to cook again? Whatever you cooked, you bring it and we will divide and eat. And Lord Chaitanya said, no, my dear Lord, please, you accept. It's not really difficult. I'll cook very quickly for myself. And he made Ishwarapuri sit down and offered him all the different foods that he has personally cooked. And Lord Chaitanya was so happy and satisfied serving his own devotee. When Lord Chaitanya was serving Ishwarapuri, the meal, Rama Devi, the goddess of fortune, she secretly came to the kitchen of Lord Chaitanya and cooked for the Lord. Let's see the affection of the Lord. Lord personally cooking for his own devotees and very eager to serve them. If anyone takes to Krishna consciousness and becomes eagerly becoming the servant of the Lord, is never the loser. When a living entity is becoming the servant of the Lord actually becomes the servant of his own devotees. Remember, even Srila Prabhupada, when he was in Jew, there was one devotee who was actually a Muslim boy, young boy from Muslim family who had joined the temple. And he had this habit of stealing. He used to steal, and Prabhupada knew that because he was from a background of a thief. That's how he came to Krishna consciousness. So Prabhupada knew that he had a habit of stealing. And Prabhupada one time actually caught him. His name was, of course, he's known as Haridas Prabhu now, as Prabhupada's disciple, but he had a service of bringing vegetables and flowers from the market. So he used to cheat, the temple president that time was Giriraj Swami Maharaj. He was actually the temple president. So he used to, because they were all, white body devotees, so he could actually very easily cheat them, because he'll give them inappropriate account and then they would accept it. But Prabhupada was very shrewd. So Prabhupada actually caught him, Haridas Prabhu. One time, Haridas Prabhu had gone to the market and um, he had spent some money. He was given 20 rupees in those days, which was a big amount. And he had given the account of 21 rupee that I spent 1 rupee from my pocket. So Lord Chaitanya, so Prabhupada said, "Oh, really?" Prabhupada actually said, "Okay, sit down here." And Prabhupada started asking, "Okay, how much you paid for this? How much you paid for this? How much you paid for this?" And the total, it came around 16 rupees and something. And Prabhupada said, "Okay, where's the balance?" So in this way, he actually caught him. So, and he took out the money from beer bag and he was giving it to Prabhupada. One chocolate, 5-star chocolate actually fell from his bead bag. Prabhupada said, "What is this?" Prabhupada said, "This is," Prabhupada said, and Haridas Prabhu said, "Prabhupada, this is chocolate." And he actually opened and gave to Prabhupada. "Prabhupada, you also eat this." So Prabhupada took one bite and then he started looking at the wrapper. He said, and then he looked at the wrapper and he showed to Haridas Prabhu. He said, "You see, this has cocoa. We don't eat the cocoa." But Haridas Prabhu said, "But Prabhupada, I love sweets." Prabhupada said, "You love sweets? Okay, you sit down here." So Prabhupada made Haridas Prabhu sit down in his room and Prabhupada went down in the kitchen. He went in the kitchen and within less than 15 minutes, he came back with a bowl of halwa, hot, halwa, with such an intense fragrance of that halwa. So Haridas Prabhu said, Prabhupada offered him that halwa, freshly cooked. He himself cooked and brought it. And Haridas Prabhu said he had eaten so many feasts in his life, but the taste of that halwa was incomparable. He never ate anything like that after that. So just imagine, Prabhupada was that time already having so many disciples all over the world. He already had the Jew temple, which was under construction. That's where actually this Haridas Prabhu joined. And yet, here's a simple, devotee who was actually having even stealing habits, not even known as being firmly fixed in devotional sense. But Prabhupada became humble servant of this Vaishnava. He went and personally cooked with his own hands. So this is actually the mood of the Supreme Lord and all the pure devotees of the Lord. They have exactly similar mood. They take the humble role of the servant of the servant. So Lord Chaitanya was very delighted to serve Ishwarapuri in this way. In fact, Lord Chaitanya at some other time he visited Kumarhata. Kumarhata is the place, near Kolkata. I think it's somewhere, not Kolkata, near Navdeep only somewhere. That's a place. When we go to Navdeep Parikrama, we also visit to Kumarhata. So Kumarhata is a birthplace of Ishwarapuri. So Lord Chaitanya, when he visited Kumarhata, he actually rolled in the dust of Kumarhata. Now, this is the birthplace of Ishwarapuri, my Lord and Master. Lord Chaitanya accepted Kumarhat as one of the topmost holy places. And when he visited there, he actually collected the lump of dirt from that Kumarhat and tied to one corner of his cloth. And he would continue to eat a small portion of it every day. So in this way, Ishwarapuri, he took the meal at the residence of Lord Chaitanya. And next day, was Lord Chaitanya took the meal which was cooked by Lakshmi Devi, Rama Devi, and then he took rest. Next day, Lord Chaitanya met Ishwarapuri again, and he approached Ishwarapuri with a with a very humble and meek manner, he told Ishwarapuri, "My dear Lord, I am begging at your lotus feet. Please, please give me initiation." And when Ishwarapuri heard this request from Lord Chaitanya, he said, "Oh Pandit, you are asking me for initiation? I will give my very life for you." In saying this, he actually embraced Lord Chaitanya, and uh, Ishwarapuri actually initiated Lord Chaitanya in the 10-syllable Krishna mantra. And after initiation, uh, Lord Chaitanya started exhibiting the symptoms of a devotee, the symptoms of love of God and the mood of a devotee was exhibited by Lord Chaitanya. He um, he embraced Ishwarapuri and you know and started chanting this mantra, the Diksha mantra that he received from Ishwarapuri. And by chanting that mantra, Lord Chaitanya exhibited all the symptoms of ecstasy. His eyes would shed the tears of love of Godhead, and all the hairs on his body would stand to end. His voice would be choked up, and he would start praying to Krishna, "Oh, my dear Lord, oh Krishna, where are you?" So, all the symptoms of an exalted Mahabhagavat Vaishnava were seen on the body of the Supreme Lord. In fact, the symptoms which were visible on the body of Lord Chaitanya are not to be seen in the body of any mortal living being. And one time, Lord Chaitanya was so much overwhelmed with the love and devotion that he started um, running. He told actually his students who had come with him that you all go back to Navdeep. I will not go back to Navdeep now. I will go to Mathura. No. So I don't want to go back to my home. When the students heard this, they were actually very much alarmed. They pacified Lord Chaitanya somehow that and then made him sit down. But that night, when nobody was actually watching, Lord Chaitanya got up and started walking towards Vrindavan. So when Lord Chaitanya was walking towards Vrindavan, he heard a celestial voice from the sky. The celestial voice said, "My dear Lord, you are the supreme personality of Godhead. Please do not go to Mathura now. You will go to Mathura a little later. Now it's time for you to inaugurate the Sankirtan movement. So please return. Go back to Navdeep. The devotees are very much eagerly waiting for you. Inaugurate the Sankirtan movement. Deliver this material existence. All the living entities in this Kali Yuga, they are very much dependent on your mercy. So please inaugurate this Sankirtan movement, and little later you will go to Mathura." So when Lord Chaitanya heard this celestial voice, he refrained from going further and returned. He spent a lot of time with Ishwarapuri in Gaya, discussing with Krishna Katha. But then soon he realized that it was time for him to, his visit to Gaya was coming to an end. So he took permission from Ishwarapuri and started traveling along with his students back to Navadvip. So in this way, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he actually visited Gaya Atit, took initiation from Srila Ishwarapuri, and then only he inaugurated the Sankirtan movement. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He is the Supreme Lord. He doesn't need anyone's permission. But still, Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu wanted to show from his own example that he did not start the Sankirtan movement. He did not start or exhibit the symptoms of ecstasy till the time he was initiated by Srila Ishwarapuri. In this way, the Lord was showing from his own example. It is one of the very important principle of sadhana bhakti, or the limbs of bhakti, to accept a spiritual master. Actually, Lord Chaitanya never preached about Krishna consciousness till the time he received initiation from Srila Ishwarapuri. And only after returning from the Gaya, Lord Chaitanya began to teach the process of devotional service to everyone. So I think we'll stop here. If anyone has any questions, you may ask.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. Dhanavad Pranam. Anand Davidas Prabhuji. I have a couple of questions, Prabhuji. First one is about the Daya. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu visited so many places in Daya. So, and offered a Shraddha ceremony to different, Yudhishthir Maharaj, Lord Ramchandra, and Brahma, and Lord Shiva. So, can you tell me what is it that important to offer at each and every place to go Shraddha ceremony? Or what is the importance of the Gaya place and offering start to each and every places in Gaya?
Actually, it is there in the scriptures, especially in the Puranas, mentioned that a person who performs Shraddha ceremony at Gaya is guaranteed to be liberated from the material existence. So offering Shraddha ceremony in Gaya is actually very significant, and every human being must try to visit Gaya at least once in lifetime and offer Shraddha to his ancestors, to his family, Pitris or ancestors or his family. So Lord Chaitanya showed from his own example. It's actually one of the very important principles. So Lord Chaitanya visited those holy places and he performed Shraddha ceremony. So when you visit to Gaya, at least in one place, even if one place you offer Shraddha ceremony, that's good enough. But Lord Chaitanya, being the Supreme Personality of God, it's showing the ideal example. He actually performed Shraddha ceremony in all the holy tirthas of Gaya.
Sure. Anyone has another question? Then
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Dandat Pranam. This is Sitarani Devdasi. Prabhuji, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu took sannyasi from Keshava Bharata, right?
Yes.
Yeah. After taking sannyasa, he got initiated from the Ishwarapuri or?
No, Mati. Lord Chaitanya has not yet taken sannyas. He is still a householder, right? He took permission from Mother Sachi to go to Gaya. He is living in his home with his wife Vishnupriya and his mother Sachi Devi. So that is when he actually visited the holy Tirth of Gaya. He has not yet taken sannyas. So we are discussing the persons of Lord Chaitanya in chronological order. Okay, more or less in chronological order. So right now, Lord Chaitanya visited the Gaya Tirth. And after visiting Gaya, he would inaugurate the Sankirtan movement. And then, 2 years after his visit to Gaya, he took sannyas. So he visited Gaya when he was probably 22 years old, and he took sannyas at the age of 24.
Okay. Okay, Prabhuji. Yeah, you're going in chronological order. Okay. Yeah. Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Prabhuji, I have a question. Prabhuji, I'm Anuradha. Dandavat Pranam, Prabhuji. Prabhuji, if any person is not going to Gaya and he's not keeping any Pitru Darpanas on there, what is another best solution, Prabhuji?
Well, Mataji, the best solution is to chant the holy name of Krishna. Person who's chanting Hare Krishna Mahamantra, he transcends all these principles. If possible, one should try to visit Gaya and perform Shraddha there. But if one is chanting the Hare Krishna Mahamantra, now every Mahamantra, every day if you're chanting the Hare Krishna Mahamantra, it gives you the effect of performing millions and millions of such, Shraddha ceremonies in the holy places. So chanting of Hare Krishna Mahamantra is much, much more potent and powerful than just visiting Gaya and performing Shraddha there. So devotees should not worry too much about this principle. It's a principle there, one of the important principles, Lord Chaitanya personally showed from his example, but nothing like chanting of Hare Krishna Mahamantra. So when it's chanting Hare Krishna Mahamantra, therefore it's called Mahamantra. It gives you effect of all the other mantras which are chanted during Shraddha ceremony or even performing Shraddha in the holy places. The effect of Mahamantra is much, much more potent than all of those things combined together.
Thank you very much, Prabhuji.
Okay.
Thank you so much. Because we are stuck in America and we are not visiting that holy places and all that places, no, Prabhuji.
So the whole idea
So,
is, even if in the lifetime, entire lifetime, you can visit once, that is good enough. You don't have to visit very often. So even if we are stuck in America, maybe whenever you get a chance to go to India, if somebody can do it, that's wonderful. If you can't do it, don't worry. Chanting Hare Krishna is much, much more than, much, much more potent than visiting Gaya and performing Shraddha ceremony.
okay, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Dhanwad Pranam. Prabhuji, while doing sadhana and while doing yoga, nidra or yoga, how do we remember Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in our inner consciousness?
So while doing our regular sadhana, daily sadhana, how do we remember Lord Chaitanya? Right?
Yes, Prabhuji.
Well, one of the practice that we do before we start the chanting of Hare Krishna Mahamantra is we recite the Shikshashtakam prayer. I try to do every day before I start chanting the holy name of Krishna. So in that way, we remember Lord Chaitanya and we remember the glories of the holy name given by Lord Chaitanya. So you can actually try to recite the Shikshashtakam prayer before you start chanting of Hare Krishna Mahamantra. And at the beginning of every round of Hare Krishna Mahamantra, we actually chant Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shrivasadi Gaur Bhaktavrinda. So in this way, we actually remember the Panchatattva at the commence or beginning of every round of Hare Krishna Mahamantra. In this way, we seek their blessings and mercy to chant the holy names of Krishna with great feeling and love.
Thank you very much, Prabhuji. Yes, yes. Thank you very much, Prabhuji.
Yeah, one more question, Prabhuji. When Lord Chaitanya visited Kumarata, and from that place he collected some dirt, some clothes, and he was eating that dirt every day. And what is the significance of that? Showing love towards his by years that he was doing.
Yes, the significance of eating dirt every day, the dirt from the Kumar Hut, the birthplace of Ishwarapuri, is exhibiting the Lord's love for his devotees. And also at the same time, how a disciple should have reverence to anything related to his spiritual master, including the birthplace of one's guru. So, Lord Chaitanya is showing from his personal example how to worship the spiritual master. Apane Acharya Prabhu Jivara Sikhaya. So Lord Chaitanya is teaching from his own example the living entities how to worship the spiritual master, how to hold the spiritual master in reverence.
Sure, Prabhuji. Sure, Prabhuji. What is the 10th? What is the 10th the 10 syllable mantra? What is the mantra?
I didn't come across, because I think Bhaktisan Sagar might have given the commentary, but I didn't. I don't recollect whether it's there in Chaitanya Bhagavat, or if it was there, I would have put it in the slide. So I have not put, because this slide I made long ago. So if I had
Sure.
a mantra was there, I would have definitely put it there. So I don't recollect. Maybe Vijay Prabhu, he can find if Bhaktisan Thakur has mentioned anything in the commentary.
Oh, his question was not clear. His voice was not clear. What is the question, Prabhu?
His question was the 10-syllable mantra he received from Ishwarapuri. So what is that 10-syllable mantra?
Oh, I see. Okay. Sure, Prabhu.
So I'm sure it is not there in Chaitanya Bhagavat. The mantra is not mentioned, but Bhakti Satan Thakur might have mentioned in the commentary. Okay. So we'll post it if it is.
But there is a 10-syllable mantra mentioned in Brihad Bhavatamrita also, which is Gopijana something it comes.
Krishna, Govinda, Gopijana, but that's not 10th-level mantra. It's much more.
Gopijana, the last line, just the last line.
Gopijana. Okay. Gopijana Vallabhaya Swaha. Gopijana Vallabha Swaha.
Vallabha, yeah.
Okay, Gopijana Vallabhaya Swaha. Yeah, that makes sense. That 10 syllables. So it could be Gopijana Vallabhaya Swaha. That's a mantra mentioned in. But I think there are a lot of 10-syllable mantras, but I don't recollect what would be the mantra. Maybe we can look into Bhakti Sansakar's commentary.
Sure, Babuji.
But thank you very much for Vijay.
Thank you, Babuji.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Yeah, so I think we can stop here. Vancha kalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhya